Randy Stacy Booth Wilson, primarily recognized by her middle name, was an American woman whose identity remained unknown until her body was discovered in Jacksonville, Onslow County, North Carolina, on December 6, 1995. Booth Wilson served in the United States Marine Corps and married fellow Marine Earl Wilson in 1981. The couple had 3 children, 2 sons, Earl III, born in 1984, and Elliot, born in 1987, along with a daughter named Leslie. However, their marriage began to deteriorate in 1994, leading to their divorce following Earl's discharge from the Marine Corps in August of that year. Earl was often late with child support payments. Subsequently, Booth Wilson relocated with her children to her home state of New York, where they lived in various places, including her mother's residence. At the time of her disappearance, she was employed as a security guard at a museum in Manhattan. On October 28, 1994, Booth Wilson left her children to visit her sister in Queens, New York, but she never reached her destination. Her vehicle was later found abandoned at a location that remains disputed. Letters addressed to her children suggested that she intended to leave them, and her credit cards were subsequently sent to her husband. Forensic analysis of the letters could not definitively determine the author, although they bore similarities to Booth Wilson's handwriting. Her remains were discovered in a field in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and it is believed they had been there for approximately 2 years. She was estimated to be between 5 feet 5 inches and 5 feet 8 inches, 1.73 meters, tall, but her weight could not be assessed due to the condition of the remains. The victim was thought to be in her early to late 30s, although the Doe network suggested a broader age range of 25 to 40. Initially, she was misidentified as Caucasian. Nearby her skeleton, a strand of reddish hair was found, potentially belonging to her, and there were indications of dental work, although some teeth had protruded from her mouth. The examination of her remains revealed a fractured rib, suggesting a violent past. Among the items discovered at the scene were a Nike sneaker, exquisite gold jewelry, hoop earrings, and garments in striking red, black, and yellow hues, alongside a hotel key and New York subway tokens. While no signs of foul play were evident on her skeletal structure, suspicions linger that she met with foul play. The investigation remains open, with a notable suspect, Matthew Lorne Alder, emerging in 2012 due to his potential link to her demise. Alder, who was incarcerated in 1995 for the heinous rape and murder of Lisa Gibson, later confessed to the murder of Wanda Musk in 2013 and is currently serving a life sentence for his atrocious acts. The case of this unidentified woman garnered attention on the America's Most Wanted website, yet it did not yield her identification. Efforts to reconstruct her visage in both 2D and 3D aimed to provide a glimpse of her appearance in life. Bone marrow was utilized to create a DNA profile for further investigation. In a significant development announced in February 2019, her remains were conclusively identified as belonging to Booth Wilson, following a DNA match established in January from an envelope she had sent with DNA extracted from a stamp. Additionally, dental records were meticulously compared to confirm her identity. Mansour Rashid el-Kikia, a distinguished figure in Libyan history, served as the Minister of Foreign Affairs from 1972 to 1973. And held the esteemed position of Libyan ambassador to the United Nations, acting as the permanent representative from 1975 to 1980. A prominent opposition voice against the regime of Muammar Gaddafi, he was also a dedicated human rights advocate. Born in Benghazi, Libya, in 1931, el-Kikia received his early education in his hometown before pursuing high school in Egypt, culminating in his university graduation in 1950. He furthered his academic journey by obtaining a degree in international law from the prestigious Paris Sorbonne University. In 1962, he began his diplomatic career at the Libyan embassy in France, subsequently moving to Algeria in 1963. He served as the Libyan General Consul to the UN office in Geneva from 1963 to 1967 and became a member of the Libyan mission to the United Nations in 1968. Following the 1969 coup in Libya, Kikia assumed significant roles within the new government. Throughout the early 1970s, he courageously advocated for prisoners' rights, despite the inherent dangers. His tenure as foreign minister lasted from 1972 to 1973, and he continued as the permanent representative to the UN until 1980, when he resigned in protest against the regime's brutal policies, particularly the summary executions carried out by revolutionary committees. In 1980, he relocated to the United States, where he sought American citizenship. He married Baha Omari Kikia, an American, and they resided in Vienna, Virginia. During his exile, he founded the Libyan Human Rights Association in 1984, and 2 years later established the Libyan National Alliance, serving as its Secretary General. Tragically, on December 10, 1993, he mysteriously disappeared after attending a meeting of the Arab Organization for Human Rights Board of Trustees in Cairo. Eyewitnesses reported seeing him enjoying coffee with 2 men suspected of being affiliated with Egypt's Mukhabarat, shortly before he was abducted by 3 individuals in a black limousine bearing diplomatic plates, just a short distance from the Safir Hotel in Cairo, where he was staying. The authorities in both Egypt and Libya have not issued any reports or taken responsibility for the forced disappearance in question. A comprehensive investigation by the CIA, which concluded in August 1997, uncovered substantial evidence indicating that Egyptian agents orchestrated the abduction of Kikia and forcibly transported him to the residence of Ibrahim Bishari, the Libyan ambassador to the Arab League. There, he was interrogated by Abdullah Senussi before being handed over to Libyan authorities, who ultimately executed him. His remains were discovered in October 2012, concealed within a refrigerator at a villa in Tripoli that belonged to the former military intelligence, following the tenure of Abdullah Senussi as the head of Libyan intelligence. The circumstances surrounding his death remain unclear. Speculation persists regarding whether he perished during the events at Abu Salim prison or due to medical negligence while incarcerated. Kikia was honored with a state funeral in Benghazi, accompanied by a memorial service on December 3, 2012. The parallels drawn between the cases of Reda Halal and Kikia have fueled widespread suspicion regarding the potential involvement of senior Egyptian officials. Kikia's legal representative has not dismissed the possibility of Libyan and American complicity in his disappearance. The recent arrest in London of esteemed Egyptian engineer Professor Momdou Hamza has implicated 4 high-ranking Egyptian officials with connections to the Mubarak family, reigniting speculation in Cairo. For years, Egyptians have been aware of the forced disappearances of public figures in other regions, such as Iraq, Syria, and Libya, but have not considered their situation. Notably, Kikia was related to Libyan-American academic Mansour, Omar el-Kikia, whose father, Omar Pasha Mansour el-Kikia, served as the inaugural Prime Minister of Cyrenaica. Dudley Francis Cecil Wolfe emerged as a prominent figure in American high society. Renowned as both a racing yacht owner and captain, he made history as the first individual to navigate a 60-foot yacht across the Atlantic, daring to compete against significantly larger vessels. An intriguing stipulation awaited him: a vast inheritance from his maternal grandfather, contingent upon his adoption of the surname Smith. Although he initially acquiesced, he later reverted to his original name. Wolfe's legacy was cemented posthumously when he perished under controversial circumstances during the 1939 American Karakoram expedition to K2. Born in New York on February 6, 1896, to Dudley and Mabel Florence Wolfe, née Smith, his lineage was marked by both ambition and complexity. His father, an English immigrant and coffee importer, wove tales of an aristocratic past, regaling New York's elite with fanciful accounts of tiger hunts in India. Mabel, his mother, hailed from the illustrious Benjamin Franklin Smith family, whose fortune was amassed through gold and silver mining in 19th-century Colorado. The Smith family astutely transitioned their wealth into real estate and railroads, returning to Maine in the 1880s with an estimated fortune of $20 to $30 million, equivalent to approximately $600 to $900 million today. With no heirs among his brothers, Benjamin was able to bequeath his entire estate to Mabel. Married on October 15, 1892, Dudley Wolfe's parents faced financial turmoil when his father's business declared bankruptcy within a year. Nevertheless, the family maintained an affluent lifestyle, buoyed by the financial support from Mabel's family. They welcomed 4 children, 3 sons and a daughter, with Dudley positioned as the middle son. While the boys struggled academically at their prestigious boarding schools, Dudley excelled in sports, showcasing his talents in football, hockey, running, boating, and hunting. Following the death of Wolfe Sr. in May 1908, Mabel remarried a businessman from Nebraska, Joseph Baldridge, and relocated to Omaha. Wolfe's academic performance ultimately declined to such an extent that he was unable to continue his studies at Phillips Academy, despite the headmaster acknowledging his faithful, conscientious effort and the positive relationships he had built within the school community. In 1916, facing challenges in securing a suitable job, Wolfe sought to contribute to the World War I effort by applying to various branches of the U.S. military. However, he was turned away due to issues with his eyesight and flat feet. Subsequently, he placed himself on a year-long waiting list for the French Foreign Legion, while also joining the Red Cross Ambulance Corps. In 1917, he embarked for Europe, where he fortuitously encountered Lucien Wolfe in Liverpool, who revealed to him the true heritage of his father. Lucien's brother, Dudley Wolfe, who later adopted the surname Wolfe, was the child of a Bohemian Jew who fled anti-Semitic violence in 1848 to establish a tobacconist business in London. Wolfe's grandmother, Celine Redlich, hailed from Vienna. It remains uncertain whether the Smith side of his family was ever aware of Dudley Wolfe's authentic lineage. Wolfe volunteered to serve on various battlefronts, operating an ambulance, a modified Model T Ford, under extremely challenging conditions, transporting injured soldiers from the front lines to field hospitals. He later joined the Italian ambulance service, where he earned the Italian Croce di Guerra and a campaign medal for his service on the Italian front. After 10 months of ambulance duty, he was called up to the Foreign Legion in October 1918, serving for just a month until the armistice, during which he received the French Volunteer Medal and Campaign Medal. Phillips Academy subsequently recognized him as the former student with the most medals. After spending a year in Europe, Wolfe returned to Omaha to assist in managing the family real estate business, which did not suit him, prompting him to spend every summer in Maine participating in yacht racing. In 1924, he permanently departed from Omaha, and that same year he and his brothers were called to their grandfather Smith's expansive estate in Maine, where he was 94 years old. By that time, their grandfather, Benjamin Smith, had amassed a fortune estimated between $70 and $100 million, equivalent to approximately $1 billion to $1.4 billion in 2023. Making him one of the wealthiest individuals in New England. Traditionally, this wealth would have been inherited by Mabel's brother, who had passed away long ago, leaving behind a son named Clifford. However, Smith had a strong aversion to Clifford and declared that his fortune would instead go to Mabel's 3 grandsons. The condition was that they would need to adopt the Smith surname, which they agreed to do legally. Eventually, Dudley felt that changing his name was a betrayal of his father, so he approached his grandfather to express his desire to revert to his original name and forego the inheritance. The elder Smith was moved by Dudley's principled decision and chose to bequeath him a portion of his wealth regardless. He passed away in 1927. Wolfe was known for his gentle, cheerful demeanor, though he was also quite shy. He had a robust build, was strong-willed, and despite his considerable wealth, he maintained a modest demeanor, although he had refined tastes. He owned a substantial estate along the Maine coast, which his nephew likened to a scene from The Great Gatsby, complete with Rolls-Royces, large powerboats, and sailing yachts. In 1925, he gained admission to Harvard University, despite lacking the necessary academic credentials, ultimately graduating in 1930. He became a member of the prestigious unofficial Dicey chapter of Delta Kappa Epsilon and the Owl Club, easily fulfilling the social and financial criteria. Although he was a decade older than his peers, he was well-liked and respected for his wartime experiences and yachting achievements. Wolfe participated in various international and local yachting competitions, notably winning the Brooklyn Yacht Club's Deep Sea Challenge Cup in 1925 with his new yacht. In 1929, he commissioned a 60-foot schooner named Mohawk and entered the transatlantic King and Queen's Cup Classic, marking a notable first as no one had previously raced a yacht of that size across the ocean. As the captain, he secured second place, competing against much larger yachts measuring 100 feet or more. Additionally, he commissioned a racing cutter called Highland Light, participating in the 1931 Fastnet race. Wolfe later relocated to Europe, where he engaged in climbing and skiing in the Alps, employing guides for assistance. He became a skilled skier, completing a ski traverse of the Mont Blanc Massif, although he found the technical aspects of climbing more challenging. In the spring of 1934, while skiing in St. Anton, he met Alice Blaine Damrosch, and they married in Geneva that October. Alice, the eldest daughter of American conductor Walter Damrosch, had previously been married to Hall Pleasance Pennington, but divorced in the late 1920s. An outdoor enthusiast and accomplished skier, she was recognized as the first woman to ski down the ice wall of Tuckerman Ravine. Alice played a significant role in skiing, organizing the first women's Olympic ski team for the 1936 Winter Olympics in Garmisch-Partenkirchen. She was an outspoken opponent of Nazism and utilized her influence to assist Jewish friends in Austria during the Nazi regime, including physician Hans Kraus. By 1938, Wolfe expressed a desire to return to single life and requested a divorce. Despite this, they continued to cohabitate. In early 1938, the couple hosted a gathering in their Fifth Avenue apartment in Manhattan, showcasing photographic slides of their climbing and skiing adventures in Europe. German-American mountaineer Fritz Wiesner attended, seeking wealthy mountaineers interested in funding an expedition he was organizing to attempt the ascent of K2, the second highest mountain in the world, at a time when none of the 14 peaks over 8,000 meters had been successfully climbed. When Wiesner introduced the topic to him, Wolfe was instantly captivated, despite lacking experience in high-altitude climbing. In the early spring of 1939, Wolfe attempted to summit Mont Blanc and Piz Palu, but was unsuccessful, even with the assistance of a guide. In March of that year, he met Wiesner in England, where they procured climbing gear to supplement the sports attire he had acquired in New York. The team embarked on the SS Conte Biancamano from Genoa on March 29, 1939, heading to Bombay. Upon arriving in Srinagar at the commencement of the expedition, Wolfe was disappointed to learn that Wiesner had not heeded his suggestion to bring two-way radios. During the trek to the K2 base camp, Wolfe managed to keep pace with the others, but above Camp 2, he noticeably lagged and faced criticism from some teammates. Nonetheless, Wiesner preferred him over the rest of the group due to his minimal complaints and commendable endurance. Wolfe did not take the lead and arrived at each camp after it had already been set up by other climbers, allowing him to ascend higher than all the Americans except Wiesner. The team lacked bottled oxygen, and by Camp 8 at 25,300 feet, 7,700 meters, on July 14th, Wolfe could ascend no further. He remained there for 7 days while Wiesner and Pasang Dawa Lama attempted to reach the summit but ultimately failed. After descending to Camp 7 at 24,700 feet, 7,500 meters, Wolfe endured another week in harsh conditions while his two companions ventured lower in search of assistance, only to find the lower camps abandoned and their equipment removed until they finally made it back to base camp. On July 29th, during one of 3 rescue attempts, 3 Sherpas managed to reach Wolfe, but he was in a poor mental state and declined to descend, asking them to return the following day. Tragically, the Sherpas also perished on the mountain. In the subsequent years, questions arose regarding Wiesner's decision to leave Wolfe behind, the organization of the expedition, the circumstances that allowed Wolfe to ascend to such heights, and whether the Sherpas should have been permitted to attempt a rescue. Wolfe's brother, Clifford Warren Smith, contemplated pursuing legal action but ultimately chose to abandon the case. In 2002, skeletal remains were discovered on the Godwin-Austen Glacier at the base of K2, accompanied by vintage mountaineering gear and a leather mitten inscribed with Wolfe. In memory of Wolfe, an ancient dinner plate found among the debris was inscribed with his name, and a plaque was created for the nearby Gilkay Memorial, which at that time honored 52 other climbers who had lost their lives on K2.